My name is Rowan Vale, 29 years old. The night of my cousin's engagement party looked like a perfume commercial. Soft light spilling from chandeliers, a string quartet murmuring in a gold leaf room, waiters drifting through with glasses that caught every glint. My aunt's mansion had a way of making people perform wealth like a habit, all teeth and perfect posture, even when something mean stirred underneath. I'd always been close with Delilah, close enough to share clothes and secrets, and a teenage vow that we'd never let marriage turn us into strangers. When she got engaged to Tristan, I was happy for her in the way that makes your chest ache with nostalgia. We'd made it, we said without saying, to the part of life where everything stabilizes. In the kitchen, the music thinned to the clatter of ice and a humming fridge. I was refilling my wine when Tristan slid between the island and the wall, cutting off the breeze from the garden doors. He smelled like a bar towel, expensive whiskey over something sour, and his smile leaned to the wrong side. "Delilah's sweet," he slurred. "But you've always been the hot one." His hand hovered, not quite touching, as if testing how far the world would bend. Heat flared in my throat. "Sober up," I told him, stepping away, my voice flat enough to make it real. I nudged past, set my glass down, and left him with the ice machine's clink like a metronome counting his bad decisions. That should have been the end of it. It wasn't. 2 days later, Delilah called me, crying so hard her words broke on the phone. Someone told her they'd seen Tristan and me in a bedroom at the party, doing things. There was a tone to the phrase that made me feel dirty twice over, once for the lie, and once for how easily it slid into a family mouth. "Del, that never happened," I said. But the sentence fell into a room that had already been filled. She'd told my mom, who told my aunt, who told the others. In our family, accusations travel like dry season fire, fast, bright, and hungry, and truth trails after with a tin pail and a prayer. Within a week, an invitation was revoked. My mother stopped answering. My dad called to say I'd brought shame to the family, each word measured like it had been practiced. My younger brother blocked me like flipping a switch in a dark house. At Sunday dinner, the one I didn't attend, they agreed I would be cut off until I confessed and apologized. I had nothing to confess, and the silence pressed back like a door I couldn't open from my side. The wedding happened without me. Delilah wore my grandmother's veil, the one I'd been told, since I was small enough to stand on a chair to see into the cedar chest, would be mine one day. Gran had tucked a card beneath it, a spidery hand that read, "Truth outlives gossip." I hadn't thought of that note in years, not until now, not until the veil drifted back into my mind like a warning I'd mistaken for blessing. I scrolled through their photos on my phone alone in my studio, thumb moving with a kind of nausea. Pink roses, cake, the country club lawn washed in sunset, Delilah's smile held together with duty. Tristan's jaw clenched a little too hard. Comments from relatives layered under the pictures like sugar on rot. Before I could type anything, before I could even decide whether to send a single word, I noticed my own absence, the negative space where I should have been, and put the phone face down as if that could stop the feeling of falling. By Monday, my uncle called me into his office at the firm. He spoke like a man who wanted to sound professional about a personal execution. "It's best for the company," he said, even as he couldn't meet my eyes. The decision felt too fast, too tidy, like it had been assembled in the same room where my name had already been pronounced guilty. My apartment, co-signed by my father, became a countdown clock. "Figure something out," Dad said. He had figured me out already, a problem to be solved by removing the problem. I survived on savings and the tenderness of friends who believed me without a ledger. Rachel left soup on my doorstep and a spare key in a plant pot. I learned what silence weighs when it comes from people who raised you. At the grocery store, my mother crossed the street as if I were contagious. My brother looked through me once, cleanly, like a ghost was blocking his view of something he wanted to buy. I practiced breathing in parking lots. I practiced not answering when unknown numbers called. For 3 years, life closed its doors politely in my face. Birthdays happened without my name on the cake. Holidays went by in photos I didn't see. My brother graduated. I found out because a mutual friend posted a blurry story that disappeared after 24 hours, which felt right. My family's version of the truth always did evaporate when you tried to hold it. On a Tuesday, my phone rang again. Unknown number. I almost let it die. Hello? I said, finally, and there was only air. Then crying. Delilah's voice arrived in torn pieces. I need to see you, please. It's important. She named the coffee shop where we'd studied together in high school, the one with the sticky tables and generous light. I walked there with my hands clenched in my coat pockets, pulse steady in that way it gets right before something breaks. She looked like sleep had washed off her bones, hollowed out, shaking. She pulled a phone from her bag, not the sleek new one on the table, the other one with a cracked corner. I found Tristan's old phone, she said. There are messages. Her fingers jittered over the screen. Hundreds. From Veronica. The world narrowed and sharpened at the same time. Her sister. The one who'd seen things. The one who'd been everywhere the lie went, holding tissues and certainty. I didn't reach for the phone. I didn't need to. The truth had already arrived. It smelled like old electronics and panic. That night, my phone lit up like a Christmas tree with all the wrong gifts. Apologies, explanations, invitations to repair what they had first destroyed. 50 missed calls, stacked like a chorus, singing the same single word. Sorry. I watched the screen until the light hurt my eyes. Then the doorbell rang. I didn't move. The room felt very small, and I was suddenly aware of the veil drifting through my memory again, the card Gran had written, the cedar that clung to old lace. Truth outlives gossip, she'd said in ink that refused to fade. I set the phone down, the battery still burning, and walked toward the door. When I opened the door, the night air felt heavier than it should have. My entire family stood on the porch, an audience assembled by guilt. Mom was in front, her mascara already smudging. Dad hovered behind her, shoulders square, but eyes evasive. My aunt clutched her pearls like a talisman, while my brother stood near the steps, hands jammed in his pockets. At the edge of the driveway, Tristan leaned against his car, pale and unshaven. In the passenger seat sat Veronica, Delilah's sister, the architect of my ruin. Rowan, Mom began softly, we need to make this right. I didn't move from the doorway. The little apartment behind me, walls yellowed by sunlight, air smelling faintly of coffee and paint, had been my shelter, my line in the sand. Don't, I said. The single word seemed to slap the air. Mom's hand froze mid-reach. We know we messed up, Dad started, voice low, but we're here now. We want to apologize properly. Apologize properly? I repeated. You want to apologize for 3 years? Aunt Miriam, always the matriarch, stepped forward. You have every right to be angry. What happened was unforgivable, but we're family. Family forgives. I laughed then, a sound too sharp, breaking on itself. Family forgives? Is that what you told yourselves when you uninvited me from the wedding? When you got me fired? When Mom crossed the street to avoid me at the grocery store? Mom flinched. I was confused. I didn't know what to think. You didn't know what to think? I said slowly. But you knew enough to stop being my mother. That seemed clear. Tristan shifted closer to the porch. His face was a ruin of sleeplessness and regret. Veronica hid behind the tinted glass of the car. Cowardice never needed words. Can we please come inside? Mom asked. We can't talk about this on your porch. Why not? I countered. You had no problem talking about me everywhere else. At Sunday dinners, the country club, the church parking lot. I heard plenty, even from the friends who didn't abandon me. My brother finally spoke. We were lied to. Veronica manipulated all of us. Veronica lied, I agreed, but you all chose to believe her over me. I told you the truth, and you called me a liar. I begged you to listen. You blocked my number. He looked down. I'm sorry, he said. I missed you. You should have believed me, I cut him off. You were my little brother. Remember when you came out to me before anyone else? I told you I'd always have your back. Guess that promise was one way. Tears streaked his face. I was scared. I didn't know how to go against everyone. So you threw me away instead. The silence that followed was thick enough to feel. Somewhere a dog barked down the street. Inside, my clock ticked through the tension. Dad cleared his throat. What do you want from us? Tell us what we can do to fix this. You can't fix it, I said simply. That's what you don't understand. You can't unring this bell. I spent 3 years rebuilding my life without any of you. I had to learn how to be a person again after my family decided I wasn't worth the effort. No one spoke. Even my aunt's breath sounded hesitant. Then I looked at Tristan. Why are you here? Delilah asked me to come, he said. She thought you deserved to hear the truth from me. The truth? I stepped closer to the threshold, but didn't cross it. The truth is, you were a drunk at your own engagement party who hit on me in the kitchen. The truth is, you were sleeping with your fiancé's sister and let me take the fall. The truth is, you watched me lose everything. He swallowed. I know. There's no excuse. I was a coward. Veronica said if I didn't back up her story, she'd tell Delilah about us anyway. I panicked. You made the wrong choice, I said. And the worst one was letting me suffer for yours. Veronica stepped out of the car then, hesitant, clutching her coat like it could shield her. Her voice barely rose above the hum of crickets. I destroyed your life to save mine, I know that. I've known it every day. And yet you said nothing, I replied. You watched me disappear. You saw what your lie did. You stayed quiet. I was scared, she said. I thought if I just kept the secret, it would go away. You thought it was easier to let me burn than to face your own guilt, I said. You were right. It was easier. For you. A car pulled up behind Tristan's. Delilah stepped out, her face pale, eyes rimmed red. She looked older, smaller. I made them come, she said. I told them if they didn't face you, I'd never speak to them again. That's sweet, I said flatly, but I'm not interested in forced apologies. They're not forced, she insisted. They're horrified. They're ashamed. They want to fix this. There is no fixing this, Del. They showed me exactly who they are. When things got hard, they chose the easy lie. They protected their image over me. Uncle Darren stepped forward, wringing his hands. I should never have let you go from the firm. The company needed you. I needed you. I let family politics interfere with business. You let family politics interfere with my livelihood, I said. You didn't just fire me. You helped make me homeless. He paled. I didn't know about the apartment. You didn't ask. None of you asked what happened after you cut me off. You assumed I'd survive. Maybe you didn't care. Mom's voice cracked. We cared. We thought tough love would make you admit what you'd done. I didn't do anything, I said, the thousandth repetition of a truth no one wanted. But you needed a villain, and I was convenient. The streetlight flickered overhead. My neighbors were probably watching from behind their curtains, bearing witness to a family drama that should have burned out years ago. I need you to leave now, I said quietly. Please, Mom begged. Just give us a chance. Let us make amends. How? I asked. Are you going to give me back my job? My apartment? The 3 years you stole? The panic? The loneliness? The therapy bills? Can you erase that? Dad shook his head. No, but we can try to move forward. We can rebuild. You can rebuild, I corrected. I already did, without you. Aunt Miriam stepped closer, eyes glistening. Because we're your family. I looked at her, steady. You stopped being my family 3 years ago. The words hit like stones. Mom let out a sound I'd never heard from her before, a broken whimper. My brother turned away. I loved you all, I said. So much that losing you nearly destroyed me. For months I couldn't eat. I lost 20 pounds. Rachel had to make me drink water. I spent holidays alone, wondering what I'd done to deserve it. We didn't know, Aunt Miriam whispered. You didn't want to know, I replied. There's a difference. Delilah stepped forward, trembling. There has to be something we can do. Some way to show you we're sorry. You can live with what you did, I said. You can think about it every time you look in the mirror. That's not fair, my brother said hoarsely. We were manipulated. Life's not fair, I said. I learned that when my family abandoned me. I stepped back into my apartment, the door still open but my meaning clear. Dad put a hand out to stop it. Wait, please. Can we at least have your new number? I looked at that hand. The same one that had refused to co-sign a lease. The one that had hung up when I'd called crying. No, I said simply. Please, Mom whispered. Don't shut us out forever. Forever? I repeated. That's how long 3 years felt to me. We'll do anything, Aunt Miriam said. Therapy, mediation, whatever it takes. I don't want anything from you, I said. Not your apologies, not your guilt. I just want peace. Tristan cleared his throat. For what it's worth, I'm divorcing Delilah. I'm turning myself into the Bar Association for ethics violations. I used your name. I lied in filings. I'm taking responsibility. Good for you, I said flatly. That doesn't undo anything. He nodded. I know. Veronica's voice shook. I'll confess publicly. Tell everyone what I did. I don't care, I interrupted. Your confession doesn't give me back my life. It just makes you feel better about destroying it. What do you want from me? She cried. Nothing, I said. Absolutely nothing. You're strangers to me now. The words hung in the air, final as a slammed door. Mom's tears streamed freely. You'll always be my daughter. I can't lose you. You already lost me, I said, when you chose their lies over my truth. Her hand slipped from the doorframe. Dad tried again, voice shaking. We can start over. Clean slate. There are no clean slates, I said. Just consequences. You made your choices and I made mine. I chose to survive. He whispered, but we want to be in your life now. It counts for being 3 years too late. No one moved. Even the crickets seemed to pause. I need you all to go, I said finally. Please don't come back. Don't call. Don't text. Don't send gifts. Pretend I really am dead, the way you did for 3 years. Only this time it's my choice. Mom sobbed. You're my daughter. Then you should have acted like it when it mattered. I pushed the door closed. It clicked softly, a sound smaller than it should have been for the weight it carried. I stood with my back against the wood, listening. Muffled crying, footsteps retreating, car doors slamming, engines starting, then silence. I didn't cry. I thought I might, but I didn't. I just felt still, empty and free at the same time. Then the phone on the table began to buzz again. Calls, messages, apologies stacking endlessly. I turned it face down and let it ring. Outside, their cars faded down the street, leaving nothing but the sound of the night. And in that quiet, I realized something. Sometimes closure isn't a conversation. It's a locked door that finally stays closed. In the days that followed, I expected quiet. Instead, guilt arrived in waves. Letters, texts, flowers, left at my door like offerings to a God they no longer believed in. I didn't answer. I didn't open. Then the emails began. Subject lines. Please read. We were wrong. Family means something. I deleted each one until a new sender caught me off guard. Dad? I hovered over it for a full minute before opening. I know you don't want to hear from us, he wrote. I won't call or show up, but I need you to know your mother isn't doing well. She blames herself for everything. She sees a therapist, but nothing helps. She keeps your baby pictures by her bed. She cries every night. He listed the fallout one by one like confessions he'd recited to an empty church. Delilah had filed for divorce. Tristan was under ethics investigation and had lost his position. Veronica had vanished across the country. My uncle and aunt had separated. My brother had come out to the family and moved away, refusing to attend Sunday dinners. And Dad woke up each morning remembering he'd chosen pride over his daughter. We know we don't deserve forgiveness. We just wanted you to know what your absence has done to us. I read it twice, maybe 3 times, then I deleted it and emptied the trash folder. Because consequences aren't supposed to be comfortable. They're supposed to hurt. Over the next few months, I started breathing easier. At work, I earned a promotion. My friends threw a small party with too much cake and cheap champagne. Rachel gave a toast about rebirth, and everyone laughed when she joked that I'd risen from the dead. For once, it didn't sting. Delilah posted online about believing survivors and toxic family systems. I saw it, scrolled past, and blocked her again. Performance couldn't undo pain. Then, months later, my brother showed up at my office. He stood in the doorway of the marketing department like a memory wearing a suit. Before you call security, he said quickly, I'm not here to convince you to forgive us. I need to tell you something. I folded my arms. You have 30 seconds. I'm getting married, he said, and I'm not inviting Mom or Dad or anyone from the family, just you. That disarmed me. Why? Because they don't deserve to be there. They taught me that love only counts when it's convenient. I don't want that kind of energy at my wedding. You're the only one who ever loved me without a condition attached. I swallowed. And you think I'll come? He shook his head. No, but I wanted to ask anyway. He placed an envelope on my desk. The invitation's inside. If you don't come, I'll understand. Then he left, leaving the faint smell of cologne and regret. That night, I stared at the invitation for hours. I didn't RSVP, just pinned it to my fridge. Weeks passed. My life was quieter, sharper. I began seeing someone, Owen, a gentle man who never asked for more than I could give. When I finally told him the story, he just held me. You're allowed to protect yourself, he said. Those 5 words felt like permission to exhale. We built something slow, deliberate. No drama, no secrets. When he proposed 2 years later, on a quiet beach at dusk, I said yes. The ocean was the only witness I needed. Planning the wedding felt surreal. Who do you invite when your family's a scar? Rachel became my maid of honor. My chosen family filled the guest list. Coworkers, neighbors, people who'd held me up when my bloodline tried to break me. Owen's parents welcomed me instantly. His mother told me I was the daughter she'd always wanted. His father insisted on walking me down the aisle. When he offered his arm, I nearly cried. That night, beneath the fairy lights, I danced without fear for the first time in years. Later, as the music softened, Owen's mother took my hands. "I can't replace the family that hurt you," she said gently, "but I can love you like one." I cried then, real and unrestrained, because love that didn't demand a confession felt like a miracle. Months later, I found out I was pregnant. Fear mixed with wonder. I was going to be a mother. "Should we tell your family?" Owen asked one night, hesitant. "I don't have a family," I said. "You know what I mean." I looked him in the eyes. "No, they don't get to know. They don't get to be grandparents. They made their choice." He nodded. "Then we'll keep this between us." When our daughter was born, I named her Grace, because that's what she was. Grace for surviving. Grace for starting over. Holding her in my arms, I understood something deeper than forgiveness. My family's rejection hadn't just hurt me, it had freed me. Freed me to build something better. Grace would grow up knowing what real love looked like. Steady, present, earned. She would never learn to beg for it. And as she slept against my chest, I whispered a promise I intended to keep. "You will never have to wonder if you are enough." Outside the hospital window, the sky began to lighten. The world was still turning, indifferent and endless. But in that small room, everything had begun again. Grace grew fast, faster than I was ready for. Her laughter filled corners of the apartment that had once only known silence. She had Owen's calm eyes, my stubborn chin, and an endless curiosity that made her ask questions I wasn't always prepared to answer. When she was 4, we took her to the park one afternoon. The air smelled of rain and cut grass. She was running toward the swings when I saw her, my aunt, Miriam, standing near the sandbox, holding a paper cup of coffee like she'd been waiting for me. "Rowan," she said, stepping forward, "you had a baby." "I did," I replied, keeping my voice even. "She's beautiful. Can I see her?" "No." Her eyebrows lifted. "I'm her great aunt. I have a right." "You have no rights," I interrupted. "You gave those up when you threw me away." Her face hardened, like old plaster cracking. "You're punishing an innocent child because of what we did." "I'm protecting my daughter from people who've proven they can't be trusted. There's a difference." Grace called for me from the swings, and that was my cue to walk away. I didn't look back. That night, after we'd tucked Grace into bed, Owen sat beside me on the couch. "You okay?" "Yeah," I said, though my heart was pounding. It's strange how they keep finding ways to test boundaries I've already drawn. He squeezed my hand. "And you keep holding them." A few days later, a message came through from a number I hadn't seen in years. "Mom, I heard about Grace. Please, Rowan, I need to meet my granddaughter. I'll do anything. Therapy, church, whatever you want. I'm begging you." I stared at it until the words blurred. Then I deleted it. I didn't owe her healing. By the time Grace started preschool, she had Owen's patience and Rachel's playfulness. On Family Day, the other children's grandparents visited, arriving with cookies, stories, framed photos. Grace had Owen's parents who adored her like she'd hung the moon, but I noticed the flicker in her eyes when she looked around the classroom. That night, she climbed into my lap and asked, "Mommy, do I have other grandparents?" I swallowed. "You did," I said softly, "but they hurt Mommy very badly, so Mommy had to make a choice to keep us safe." She tilted her head. "Did they hurt you with their hands?" "No, sweetheart, with their words, with their choices." She frowned. "That's mean." "It was, but we're okay now. We have the family we need." She thought for a moment, then smiled. "I like Grandma and Grandpa from Daddy's side. They're nice." "They are," I said, kissing her hair. "We're lucky to have them." And that was enough for her. Children understand truth in simpler shapes than adults ever can. Years passed. Grace grew into a mirror I wasn't afraid to face. Then, one evening when she was 8, Rachel called. Her voice was tight. "Rowan, I just heard. It's your dad. Alzheimer's." I didn't respond right away. The word hung between us, heavy but hollow. "Do you want to talk about it?" she asked. "No," I said finally. "There's nothing to talk about." I wasn't angry anymore, just done. When I told Owen later, he nodded. "You don't owe them anything," he said. I smiled faintly. "I know, but I think that's what makes it sad. There's nothing left to owe." Months later, Dad died. My brother called. His voice trembled through the phone. It was peaceful. In his sleep. "Okay," I said. "There's a service. Do you want me to—" "No." He hesitated. "I'm sorry for everything." "I know you are," I said. "But knowing doesn't change anything. I miss you." "I know missing me is part of your consequence." He whispered, "I understand." We hung up. And just like that, the man who'd once told me I'd shame the family was gone. I didn't cry. Not because I hated him. Because grief requires connection. and he'd severed that long ago. Years later, a lawyer's letter arrived. My mother had passed from a heart attack. She'd left me a safety deposit key and a note. I know you won't forgive me. I don't expect you to. But what's inside belongs to you by right. I love you. I'm sorry. Inside the box were pieces of my past, my grandmother's jewelry, family photos, a worn journal in Mom's handwriting. I read the journal cover to cover one night, long after Owen and Grace had fallen asleep. Each entry was a bruise pressed into paper: guilt, regret, desperation, love. When I finished, I put it all back in the box and slid it into the back of my closet. I didn't display it. I didn't throw it away. I just let it exist, like a ghost I'd finally made peace with. 15 years after that night on my porch, Grace turned 9. She laughed the way sunlight feels. She had friends who loved her, grandparents who doted on her, and a life built from kindness, not obligation. Sometimes I lie awake and wonder if I did the right thing, if maybe forgiveness would have changed something. But then I hear her laughter in the other room, Owen humming as he makes breakfast, and I know the truth. Family isn't who you're born to, it's who shows up, who stays. I lost everything once: status, belonging, blood, and I found something better. I found peace. I found truth. And most of all, I found me. On quiet mornings, when the light slid across the kitchen counter and caught the dust in soft gold, I sometimes thought of the girl I'd been 15 years ago. The one standing barefoot in a kitchen full of noise and betrayal. The one who kept waiting for someone to believe her. She was gone now, but I carried her ghost gently. Grace was 11 when she asked, "Mom, why don't we see your family?" I hesitated, feeling Owen's eyes on me from across the table. "Because," I said carefully, "sometimes people love you in the wrong way. They think control is care. They think silence is protection. And when you show them that love has to include respect, they don't always know how to stay." Grace chewed her cereal slowly. "Did they stop staying?" "They did," I said. "But that's okay. We made our own family." She nodded thoughtfully, like she was adding it to some quiet list of rules for how the world worked. That night, I stood in her doorway watching her sleep. The soft rise and fall of her breathing felt like proof that I'd made the right choice. Every boundary, every closed door, every no that had felt like breaking glass, it had built this peace. When she turned 13, we moved into a new house. Bigger yard, garden in the back, the kind of space that made laughter echo longer. We invited Rachel's family, Owen's parents, and a few neighbors for a housewarming barbecue. I was arranging flowers in the kitchen when Owen came up behind me, resting his chin on my shoulder. "You're smiling," he said. "I know. Feels strange? Feels earned." Later, while Grace chased fireflies with Rachel's kids, I stood on the porch and looked up at the stars. For a moment, I thought of Delilah. I hadn't heard from her in over a decade. Somewhere out there, she was probably living her own penance, or maybe her peace. I didn't know which. I hoped, for her sake, it was the latter. Sometimes forgiveness doesn't look like a phone call. Sometimes it's just not wishing someone pain anymore. Years passed quietly. Grace became a teenager with opinions, music tastes, and an endless capacity for empathy. Owen and I learned the rhythm of middle age, late night talks, shared bills, small arguments about the thermostat. Our life was imperfect in the most perfect ways. Then, one winter morning, while clearing old boxes from the closet, I found the safety deposit envelope again, the one with my mother's handwriting. I sat on the floor and opened it slowly. Inside, along with the jewelry and photos, was a folded piece of lace, the edge of my grandmother's veil. I hadn't noticed it before. Attached was a note in that same spidery hand from years ago. "Truth outlives gossip." The same words I'd remembered from childhood. The same ones that had haunted me that night on my porch. I smiled, because she'd been right. Truth had outlived everything. Every lie, every silence, every person who swore I'd been the problem. When Grace came home from school that day, she found me sitting on the couch, the veil in my lap. "What's that?" she asked. "Something that belonged to your great-grandmother," I said. "Can I have it?" "One day," I told her, "when you understand what it means." She grinned. "Then you'll have to tell me the story." "Maybe someday," I said softly. That night, when the house was quiet, I stood by the window watching the reflection of our little family. Owen reading on the couch, Grace sketching at the table. The life I'd built glowed behind me like a promise kept. I realized I didn't need to tell the whole story anymore. The lesson had already been lived. Forgiveness, I'd learned, wasn't something you gave to make others feel better. It was something you found when you finally stopped needing them to understand. My family had given me a gift without meaning to. They'd shown me what not to accept. They'd taught me the sacred weight of self-respect. 15 years ago, I had stood on that porch begging for truth. Now, truth lived here, with me, with Owen, with Grace. And as I turned off the lights and listened to their laughter fade down the hallway, I whispered into the dark, I found my peace. Then I smiled, because for the first time, I believed it completely.